In the old coastal towns of Cornwall, nestled against the jagged cliffs and battered by the relentless sea, they have a saying. It's a whisper, passed down through generations, a chilling tale told by flickering firelight when the storms rage outside. They say that death doesn't just arrive unannounced. No, death is polite, in its own terrifying way. It knocks 3 times. The first knock is a warning, a gentle heads up that your time is drawing near. The second is for its arrival, a signal that has crossed your threshold and is now waiting. And the third knock is for the taking. That's when it claims you. Alara had heard the stories all her life, dismissing them as old fishermen's fables meant to scare children. She was a practical woman, a creature of logic and reason. But that night, as a tempest howled and threw sheets of rain against her little stone cottage, reason began to feel like a very thin blanket. The wind shrieked like a banshee, and the sea roared its fury, a constant, thunderous bass note that vibrated through the very foundations of her home. She was alone, as she often was. Her only company, the crackling fire and the shadows it threw, dancing like macabre puppets on the walls. That's when the first knock came. Thud. It wasn't a sharp rap of a visitor's knuckles. It was a heavy, wet, sickening sound, as if something sodden and weighty had been thrown against the oak of her front door. Alara froze, her teacup halfway to her lips. She listened, her heart suddenly a frantic drum against her ribs. But there was only the storm. After a moment, she let out a shaky breath. Just the storm, she murmured to herself. It had to be. The sea was angry tonight, probably tossing a large piece of driftwood against the cottage. Yes, that was it. Just driftwood. She settled back into her chair, trying to recapture the cozy peace she'd felt only moments before. But the feeling was gone, replaced by a thread of unease that she couldn't quite shake. 10 minutes passed. 10 minutes of the storm's symphony and Alara's own racing thoughts. She was just starting to relax, just starting to convince herself it was all in her head, when the second knock came. Thud. This one was different. It wasn't just on the door. It was through the door. The sound was so forceful it seemed to shake the entire cottage. A fine shower of dust drifted down from the ancient rafters, catching the firelight like malevolent sprites. The teacup clattered from her hand, shattering on the stone hearth. This was not driftwood. This was not the wind. A primal fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her. The old saying echoed in her mind. Once for the warning, twice for the arrival. Her hand, trembling uncontrollably, found the heavy iron fire poker leaning against the hearth. She gripped its familiar weight, a pathetic defense against what? She crept towards the door, her stockinged feet silent on the cold floor. Every creak of the floorboards, every rattle of the window panes, sounded like a footstep. Who's there? She screamed, her voice thin and reedy against the storm's roar. The only answer was the howling wind. Silence. A profound, listening silence that was somehow more terrifying than any response could have been. She pressed her ear against the cold, hard wood of the door, straining to hear anything. A footstep, a breath, anything at all. Nothing, just the storm. And so she waited. She didn't dare open the door. She didn't dare move away from it. She stood there, a sentinel in her own home. The fire poker clutched in a white-knuckled grip. 1 hour turned into 2, then 3. The fire in the hearth died down to glowing embers, plunging the room into a deeper, more menacing darkness. Her entire world shrank to that single, solid oak door, and the dreadful anticipation of what lay on the other side. She stared at it, her eyes burning from the strain, waiting for the third knock, the one for the taking. But it never came. The storm began to subside as the first hints of dawn painted the eastern sky in shades of bruised purple and gray. The wind's shriek softened to a mournful sigh, and the sea's roar quieted to a distant grumble. Slowly, painstakingly, relief began to seep into Alara's exhausted body. Her muscles ached from the tension. Maybe she had been wrong. Maybe it was just a storm playing tricks on a lonely woman's mind. A cruel, elaborate prank by the elements. It had to be. The third knock hadn't come. She was safe. A weak, watery laugh escaped her lips. Safe. She let the fire poker clatter to the floor. The sound was jarringly loud in the newfound quiet. She was so tired, her body felt heavy, her mind numb. All she wanted was her bed, to crawl under the covers and sleep until this night was nothing but a bad dream. She turned away from the door she had guarded all night, and took a step toward the staircase that led to her bedroom. Thud! The sound was soft, muffled, but it was unmistakable, and it hadn't come from the front door. Her blood ran ice. She froze, every muscle locking in place. Slowly, ever so slowly, she turned her head, her gaze tracking the source of the sound. It wasn't the front door. It wasn't a window. It came from upstairs, from the inside of her own bedroom closet.